In the wide world of fuzz pedals, there are a few names that you hear regularly. The Fuzz Face, the Big Muff, the Octavio, the Tone Bender. But there is one pedal that I think gets left out of the conversation a lot, but is obviously not forgotten by the players, and that is the Boss Hyper Fuzz. The Boss Hyper Fuzz FZ-2 was Boss's and Roland's second foray into the world of fuzz pedals, but it was only made for a few short years, only between 1993 and 1997. I'm not entirely sure why they discontinued it after only those few short years. Maybe the lack of sales, maybe it just wasn't doing very well, maybe they came out with a new version. Boss has a habit of constantly updating and bringing out newer and newer versions, and there are plenty of other fuzz pedals that come after this one. So maybe they just, replaced it. I'm not entirely sure. But even though it was only around for a few years and discontinued pretty quickly, this pedal has made quite an impact on the world of music and the world of guitar pedals in more ways than you would think. So obviously the big one that everyone talks about when it comes to the Boss Hyper Fuzz is Electric Wizard with their album Dope Throne. Their guitarist Just Oborn, I think is how you pronounce it. If that's wrong, apologies. Ran his SGs through one of these into a Sound City amp and created probably some of the most crushing guitar tones ever put to tape in the world of guitar recording. Now, that seminal doom metal album really set the template for the doom metal and kind of larger stoner sound. You know, that along with something like Sleep's Holy Mountain or their Dope Smoker effort really set the tone for what was the gold standard in that genre. And that is the genre this pedal perhaps gets most associated with, but this pedal has a much further and far-reaching influence than you would expect. Now, before we go any further, let's look at the controls on the pedal. So we have level control, self-explanatory. Skip over these two, and we'll go to the gain control. Once again, self-explanatory. Then we have the mode selector. We'll go over those in a sec. But back to the tone stack, we have a stacked tone control, I think that's what they call it, where you got two independent dials, and you have one for treble and for bass, and these are cut and boost. So if you turn it down, you're cutting treble or bass, and if you turn it up, you're boosting treble or bass. Works similar in the same way to like a James Baxandall tone stack, I've found. So, if you boost both the mids and the bass, you're going to get a mid scoop. If you think of flat EQ, boost them, if you cut them, you're going to get a mid hump. So it allows for a lot of tone sculpting, a lot of back and forth. You can have it set one way for one guitar and one way for the other guitar, and it can sound, if you're double tracking, and it can sound really cool. Now onto the modes. We have three modes: Fuzz 1, Fuzz 2, and Boost. Now Fuzz 1 and Fuzz 2 are based off the two separate modes that could be found on the unit that this is based off. This is actually based off the Shinai Super Fuzz, which was probably most famously used by Pete Townsend at the Live at Leeds, the Who album and concert Live at Leeds. So Fuzz 1 is a mid-forward octave fuzz, Fuzz 2 is mid-scooped, and then we also have the boost function. So Fuzz 1 is perfect for your more traditional Octavia sounds. If you want that kind of the vintage Jimi Hendrix kind of 60s octave sounds, you go with Fuzz 1. It's much more mid-scooped. Mid-forward, doesn't get lost in the mix, really helps you kind of poke out. And it has all that classic, roll the volume down on the neck pickup on a Strat and play above the 12th fret kind of thing that you'll see right now. Now, Fuzz-2 is the Doom setting. This is the Fuzz-2 is the Dope Throne mode. And this pedal hasn't just been used by Electric Wizard, it's also been gone on to be used by Fu Manchu and a personal favourite of mine in that genre, Mono Lord, as well as, I mean, you know, guys like Slowmatics and another favourite of mine, Bong Ripper, also use variations on this circuit. You know, there's lots of clones. But if you want that classic, authentic Electric Wizard Dope Throne sound, Fuzz-2 is the way to go. And you just want to crank the level, crank the gain, crank the bass. And that's the way to get it, as you will hear right now. Now the boost is the underrated gem of this pedal, I think. A lot of clones of this pedal really just go for the Doom market. They really just go for the people who want the Fuzz-2 setting, and you know, they might modify it a bit, this, that, but they don't include the rest of the modes. And I think that is a crime, because for a long time I didn't like the Fuzz-2. It was too scooped. I got lost in the live mix too much. Only use Fuzz-1 or the boost, but the gain boost is really good. It's not fuzzy at all. The gain control doesn't do anything. It's just the level control. At least I'm pretty sure the gain control doesn't do anything. Just the level. You have 24 dB of boost, and then the EQs obviously as well. And with a malleable EQ like that and a crap ton of volume on tap, you can really just push something and get some really, really cool, unique guitar tones, like you'll hear right now. So obviously this pedal is very, very versatile, can handle lots of different things. It's become a secret weapon for a lot of session guys, and a lot of studios that record a lot of heavier music will often have one of these, just like they might have a HM2 lying around, just for layers. I think it was quite popular with the kind of industrial crowd in the 90s. A lot of session guys use it, but it also has this hype as the dope throne doom metal pedal. And even though this pedal was, was popular enough and enough people knew about it, the legacy of this pedal is not entirely its own. The legacy of this pedal actually, and the sounds of this pedal actually comes from something else. Here it is. Yes, we cannot talk about the Boss Hyper Fuzz without talking about the Behringer Super Fuzz FS-3000. This pedal came out, not actually entirely sure when this pedal came out, but it may as well have come out in 2019 when JHS and Josh Scott did their video on the what is the deal with Behringer pedals. Everyone suddenly thought Behringer was cool after that, because that's just the effect that JHS has. But this one, I felt this pedal particularly stood out in the line, because these are not easy to get. There's not a ton of them, and they're not super cheap. I got this one fairly cheap because it's a bit busted. But you go down, you pay $20-$30, whatever it is in your currency, and you've essentially got an exact version of this. Josh, in the video when he said this is dead on, he wasn't lying. In fact, this sounds so dead on that in that intro track, one of the guitars had this on it, one of the guitars had this, and I managed to get the pedals to sound exactly the same. I mean, this pedal, the Behringer version specifically, was so popular that it is Sweetwater's most sold pedal of all time. And Sweetwater's a big deal. I mean, we don't have them over here because I live in Australia, but I see a lot of people talking about them. They're a big deal. And this, I get it's cheap. There's heaps of cheap pedals on the market, but why do people want this specifically? And I think they want this, and ethics and stuff aside about the Behringer copying circuits and stuff, that's a conversation for a different day. It just sounds good. It sounds exactly the same. And I haven't checked it out yet, but there was a series I saw recently, or maybe some guy with an Instagram account, putting one of these bad boys through their paces and seeing if it was actually easy to break or not. And from what I understand, it wasn't super easy. Go check it out if you can find it. I'll try and link it down below if I remember. But yeah, and one more cool thing about the Behringer that you can't get on this is because you have a slidey switch to go between the modes, you can kind of wedge the switch in between Fuzz 1 and Fuzz 2 and get a setting called Fuzz, which people are roughly calling Fuzz 3. And I tried to get that sound, and so we'll show you a quick playing clip of that now. As you can see, a dead-on pedal, right? It's awesome. It's orange, which is, kind of cool. It's a bit plasticky, it's a bit cheap, but I've gigged with this before I had this, and I would again if I ever got really worried about something happening to this one. I'd happily take this pedal on my board instead. I've used it heaps of times before. I do want to say that I did not buy it because of the hype. I was already familiar with the Hyper Fuzz, and had seen other people. I mean, I didn't figure it out myself, but I saw other people on, you know, forums and Facebook groups who were into the doom music as well, talking about this pedal. And my local shop happened to have one, which is why I ended up picking it up, because it was cheap and everyone was, and I saw a few people online being like, hey, this is a cool fuzz pedal. So I picked it up, and then I think maybe a month later, the JHS video went out, and suddenly these things went crazy, and that's when I ran up and picked out the Behringer version of the HM2. I will do a video like this on the HM2 as well. I need to just get my ducks in a row. There's a bit more history when it comes to the HM2 as compared to this one. But yeah, so obviously there are a million clones of this thing, being a discontinued pedal. The Behringers are obviously a dead on, but you know, you've got lots of different clones from lots of different people. I know Fuzzlord FX has the FU2, which I've done a review on, and you can check out on my channel. Pepper's Pedals from New Zealand does a really good clone. I don't have one, but looks cool, and his version has the fabled Fuzz 3 setting from this one. Who else? Dunwich, I'm pretty sure, do a copy of it, do a clone, and you know, everyone's had a crack at this, because like the HM2, it's a bit of a mine to be tapped. You know, if you can offer a cheaper alternative, maybe with some updated mods, some, you know, or a slight variation, people might go for it over forking out the money for what is becoming a bit of a collector's piece pedal in the original units. And until Boss wants to put out a Wazacraft version, these are just going to keep climbing in price. I mean, I think HM2s have come down a bit in price. Obviously, the collectors still want them, but I don't think HM2s are quite, vintage ones are quite worth what they are now that the probably superior Wazacraft version exists. But yeah, until Boss bring out a Waza version of this, which hopefully they do at some point, this is just going to keep climbing in price. People will keep making clones, and Behringer's going to keep selling super fuzzes, you know. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Sorry it was a bit, if it was a bit rambly. Hopefully I cut it down in the edit to make it a bit cleaner. But yeah, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Let me know, do you have either of these, or which one is your favorite clone of your favorite Hyper Fuzz, Super Fuzz clone? Let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next video.